Hello and welcome to College Talk Tuesday. Andy Lockwood and the lovely Pearl Lockwood
Hello, everybody.
here and lovely. So today we're talking about a few things that come up in our college planning practice, such as the dangers of helicoptering parents. Those are parents that hover over their kids. We have a few stories. Hopefully we're going to be using different names to protect the innocent or guilty. We're also going to be talking about a question that comes up frequently, which has to do with should you apply for need-based financial aid, should you fill out the FAFSA and other financial aid forms in order to get merit scholarships, or if you're not sure what you're going to qualify for. So we'll spend a little bit of time talking about that because you had a conversation with a client, I guess, early this morning.
Yes.
4 hours ago.
Yep.
And I had substantially the same conversation at about an hour ago.
Yes, and
So we do the same thing over and over again.
Are we going to launch into that first? Because
No, I want to go in order. We have a very specific show format today.
Okay.
Don't take me off of the
Show flow.
show flow. Yes, we're flowing.
I shan't.
So please like the page. This way you'll be notified when we go live next week, which is 12 Eastern every week. And we're also introducing the Friday FAQ. So you can FAQ us, as in frequently asked questions. I don't know if we're going to do that this Friday, are we? Are we going to the beach? We're trying to squeeze in one more beach day this year. But after that, maybe if it's bad weather, it's supposed to be nice. But after that, we're going to start doing a 1 o'clock. Actually, should we commit to it right now? Are you ready to?
Let's do it.
1 p.m. every Friday, we're doing the Friday FAQ. So we'll be notifying and reminding you about that also. Today is sort of a topic that we've discussed we want to present, and Friday is going to be more about questions that we've received, but it's really like the same stuff, just depending on what you want to focus on versus what we want to focus on. So if you like, comment, and share this information, you'll get a shot at getting your comments read on air and us addressing them. So let's talk about helicoptering parents. So the danger of helicoptering parents, in a nutshell, is although we both understand the impulse to want to be there for your kids and support them and not let them fail and all that type of stuff, there are some serious adverse ramifications to being that parent that does everything for your kids. And so we're going to talk about that because we've observed some things both in our practice and in terms of just our own personal lives, as I'm sure most of the people watching this have also. We're also, I think the disclaimer should be that we're sort of the opposite of helicoptering parents, probably to a fault. We perfected the Lockwood ignoring technique. So we're like the most uninvolved. I'm not going to any of those stupid college nights. Pearl's reluctantly going to those this week. If there are guidance counselors watching this, I'm sorry. But I just can't do it. I just can't justify the time because we work so hard and okay, whatever. So anyway, we're not role models for parenting. Just to be clear, or judgy. Well, I mean, I guess the jury's still out, right?
It depends what your philosophy is on parenting.
Okay, well, if we have 4 kids, they're not. If they don't all go to Harvard, I don't think that makes us bad parents.
It does not.
Okay.
It's actually treating them each as their own person and accepting them for who they are, and hopefully matching their own natural wiring to where and how they should be most successful in their world and in their lives. And
we're going to talk about feelings. No, so can we talk about the helicoptering instead of getting all Dr. Phil?
Yeah, but
okay.
There is some Dr. Phil crossover here. It starts with, what is your job as a parent? Your job as a parent, very loosely, generally speaking, is to teach them to live independently of you.
So what happens, and you have one example that you're going to talk about, I'm going to throw in some other stuff, but what happens, this is what we want you to focus on. I know there's a tendency to write the college essays for your kids and to go on the college tours and ask all the questions instead of letting your kids do that and all these other things, but what we want to focus on, the first part of today's show, is what happens if you do that and you fast forward. So what happened to your friend who we obviously can't name because
we're still friends,
theoretically, at least through the end of this show. What happens when that kid who is overly mothered, it's never fathered, but for the most part, goes to college? What happened to her?
Well, unfortunately, we'll use
Who cares?
Deirdre. Deirdre.
Like you'd have a friend named Deirdre. It's a nice Irish name. Go ahead.
Never know. Deirdre had a severe hovercraft mother.
Helicopter.
Hovercraft, helicopter,
Just
whatever. Could not cut the apron strings no matter what. Absolutely micromanaged everything. And I will throw in this aside here before I continue with this personal story. The unintended message that you, helicopter parent, are giving to your own child, while I'm sure you're helicoptering with the best of intentions for that child, the message you're delivering is, I don't believe in you. I don't believe you can do this on your own. Whatever it is I'm doing in lieu of you, it's because I don't believe that you have the stuff to make this happen on your own. And that is not a message I believe anyone wants to be giving their child. So that's number one. But anyway, we all, I think, know what a helicopter parent is. And this is someone who, as Andy was saying, does the projects for their kid, writes the homework, does the kid's homework well deep into high school, side by side with the kid. And all right, so needless to say, this one particular individual, Deirdre, sat perfectly, controlled throughout her schooling years, completely micromanaged by her mother. And when she finally went to college, the pressure cooker lid literally blew off the top, and this person ended up getting into some serious drugs and sexual activities well beyond what is experimenting in college within the normal bell curve range of what kids do. And the unfortunate consequences obviously are many. Just when I'm telling you this, whatever your gut reaction was when I just said drugs and sex and lots of it, and not just the soft stuff. I mean, really, she basically
she's not going to be your friend after the show.
She basically, to some degree, tossed away her college experience, which, by the way, was a private school, very expensive school, and that's all I'll say on the matter. And it had a profound impact. Eventually, thank God, she came around, but it was, after the years of college and the costs of all those years had gone by the wayside. And it had a really, really profound impact on what her choices were after college in terms of the investment her family and she had made in the college years. And to this day, I'm sure she's deeply regretful that she did not have more of a balance in her earlier years, and that would have instilled, if her mother had backed off a little, perhaps she would have had the confidence not to have, blown up like that in college, but also would have just had more self-confidence to tackle everything that she had to. She didn't have the wherewithal when she was finally on her own because she had never been on her own. That's the problem.
So that's one problem. So I was just looking through. So if you have any questions and you want us to try to get to them today, please comment on them. We're trying. There's a little bit of a delay with Facebook, but we're just trying to monitor them. We got a question from Ian Storm, which is a very cool name, if that is your real name. And that was on right, potentially. But that was on a different post. That was very interesting. That was about the 529. I think we'll save that one for Friday FAQ Us Friday.
FAQ being frequently asked questions, by the way, in case there was any confusion.
As opposed to the linkage between the sex stuff you were talking about with Deirdre. Yeah. So there's this phenomenon, I guess, of kids who are very not just helicoptered, but very strictly brought up. They go to college and they have no restrictions on them. And one of the things about college for any kid is that's one of the biggest obstacles is learning how to manage your own time. Mm-hmm. Because it's very easy in high school, in middle school, and earlier on to not have any control, whatever, about how you spend your time because it's dictated to you by teachers, parents, coaches, you name it. So you get to college and all that goes out the window. And if you're the type of kid who is not prepared, I mean, no one's completely prepared for it, but if you're completely unprepared, like Deirdre, and you have the opportunity to just go nuts, because now for the first time it's like you're breaking free and you have the shackles thrown off you. So I think that's a very near-term issue that can result directly from being helicoptered. Some other stuff that I want to point out, because I'm wrapping up a newsletter that I'm publishing this month, and I started listing some of the things that we've heard, from different people about what happens to kids who are helicopters. So because they've been syllabused through their lives, they've always been told what to do. Once they get out and try to get a job, frequently what happens is they're given a project to do and they have no idea where to start because they don't have specific instructions. It's sort of vague. And that leads to a whole, communication issue between the younger, millennial kids and the older guys who, weren't brought up that way. That's a very foreseeable outcome.
And then ultimately their job performance.
Of course, their job performance, their happiness at their jobs. A lot of millennials and I guess younger kids who don't understand the concept of paying dues or not addressing someone older by the term Mr. or Ms. first, first name basis only, or they think that their ideas should be given attention because it's always been like that. They've never had any constructive criticism. Right. Those are direct outcomes of kids who are helicoptered. We've heard stories, not just one, of parents accompanying kids on the job interviews, which True. Is the craziest thing. So all these things are, and as a parent, in the abstract, I understand that Pearl understands it because we all want what's best for our kids. Mm-hmm. But what you have to be careful about is getting in the way, letting yourself get in the way of what's best for your kids. And you got to let them screw up. Now, like I said, like I admitted before, we're at the opposite end of the continuum. Like, we're in our studio right now, which is right outside of one of our son's bedrooms. I don't like to go in there because, first of all, it stinks. Second of all, it's like a petri dish / science experiment. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on there. But every once in a while, today I had to find something that, of course, he took from me to give back. And he's not the most academically gifted kid, but he happens to be very independent. He has other redeeming qualities, and we both know that he's going to be great long term. But he has to figure things out on his own. And one thing we say all the time is, we can't want him more than you, Jack, or we can't to any kid. And the impulse would have been initially to
throw tutors at him and
send him to private school. Remember all these things that you wanted him to do?
Yes, that was my instinct.
I'm calling you
because
out.
I was worried.
We got to send him to private school. We got to get tutors.
I never yielded to it.
We got to get because of me. Thank you. We'll talk later. But get him tutors. And what about extra help? There's free resources at school. Why don't you avail yourselves of those first before?
That's the prerequisite.
Yeah, before we spend money on tutoring.
Let the effort come from you, student, first. Then we'll give you whatever support systems. Otherwise, we are not teaching him how, or her, as the case may be, consequences for your actions or your inactions.
Or how to advocate for yourself, stick up for yourself, because that's a more important skill than any stupid grade he'll ever get.
Correct.
And my point in bringing this up and calling Pearl out was, one, I like trying to rag on Pearl, because that's the way we, that's our relationship. But and she loves it. She loves it more than life itself. But speaking for Pearl, but number two, it's that it's not easy even for us, and we see the bigger picture because we've been coaching kids and families for years and years. So that's so if it's hard for us, we know it's going to be double hard for anyone watching this.
Sure.
It's hard, but you have to think about what's the point here? Am I doing them a disservice by stepping in and making all these parent-teacher appointments and arguing about grades and all these things that parents do? Another thing that I think is funny that we talked about was back when this son we mentioned before was going into 9th grade. One of his friends who was kind of similar to him, who's your walking buddy's friend. Okay. Was taking the entrance exam to go to Catholic school. Well, the Catholic schools, and we were thinking, like, couldn't we just we're Jewish, so we're thinking, like, couldn't we just baptize him like for the day before, so he can go to this school and get his butt kicked, because that's what he needed. Because I'm not critical all the time. I'm not a fan all the time of a lot of parochial schools, but the one that's right near us, Chaminade, which is the hardest one for boys to get into. They may not be great at other things like college advising. I know that firsthand if I were to criticize them, but they are fantastic at turning boys in 9th grade into men in 12th grade. because they embody this type of approach that we're talking about.
Yeah, no BS.
Yeah,
Consequences for actions.
Yeah, and take responsibility.
That's right.
Yeah, don't complain. So, there's a happy medium somewhere, but we didn't baptize him, and he went to public school.
He did, and it's been a not a straight trajectory to greatness. But I think what's also important to realize is every kid is different. We have the benefit of having 4 children who are 4 totally different children. We have
benefit.
It is a benefit because if it allows you more easily to take yourself out of that mix and see them as 4 individual people who came into the world wired a certain way, and you have to parent that child accordingly still, each and every one of them, to live independently of you. So while the temptation would be to handhold the kid is not quite motivated to do it on his own, so that he gets in somewhere, and what do you think is going to happen to the kid who continues to be completely unmotivated, and you write the college essays, and you do all his projects, and you do all his tests? Yeah. What is going to happen when that kid goes to college?
Yeah.
How much success do you think that kid is going to have?
Or
I'll tell you what's going to happen.
Or are you setting yourself up to do more of that in college?
6 months later, 1 year later, 2 years later, so-and-so's coming back home. He's transferring to local community college. Not that it's a bad thing, but this was obviously not the plan set in motion by that helicoptering parent. And what's going to happen, 5 years later? Well, now I'm done with college, and I basically phoned it in, and now I'm going to just sit in the basement and hang out.
Right.
Okay? So, although it was a struggle, I will just say, for us personally, we refused to do that with this particular son, and we've even said affirmatively to him, you know what? It doesn't appear from your efforts in school that you're interested in going to college, and that's okay. Because we have 3 other kids. We're not going to fund that either. You'll get a job when you graduated high school. It wasn't a deliberate takeaway sale.
I felt that was more of a bluff. I have to be honest
not
with
for
you.
Me, because you know what? You may be ready at 18 to go to college, and you may not be ready until you're 20.
Right.
And if it's those 2 years that you need to go out and pump gas, paint houses, whatever it is, before you become developmentally ready, if ever, to go to college, why it is such a huge investment, college. I don't care if you have so much money or so little money, you still have to value what your investment is. Hopefully you do that no matter how much money you do or do not have. And it would be wasteful to take a kid like that and throw him in. Now, should that kid, on the other hand, then become so internally motivated and wants to, that's a different story. That's the goal. But it shouldn't come from the parent.
No,
and you can't want it for them and will it for them and do it for them.
I don't think you can actually motivate someone else. Like sometimes people sit down with me, families sit down with me, and they'll say, we need you to motivate Jason. And I'll be like, yeah, you got the wrong guy, because I can certainly coach, but the motivation has to be there. I don't think you can have an exterior outside force motivate someone, and that's the way we felt with our own kids, with their activities. If they weren't ready to go when we were driving them to basketball or to dance or to whatever, then that was a sign that they didn't want to do it, or acting. So they don't do that anymore. They're ready, right? I mean, they're really, it's what?
Okay, go ahead.
No, I think in general, they're not complaining about having to go, right? Are they?
Who?
Any of our kids.
About whatever
any activities.
No, not at all.
They wanted. They wanted. We don't want it more than them. They wanted more themselves. So anyway, all right. So I think want to move on to topic 2.
Sure.
Which was okay. So you had a conversation. Please, if you're just joining us, it's College Talk Tuesday. Every Tuesday, 12 Eastern. Join us on Facebook. Please like, comment, and share. Especially if you like our page, you'll be notified of upcoming events. Some of them are impromptu and some of them are scheduled. Like tonight, I'm speaking, and I was saying to Pearl, it's going to seem like a C-SPAN show, which is not the biggest selling point. But tonight, I am speaking to the National Association of Accountants, the local chapter, I guess.
They know how to party.
Yeah, those guys are. Strippers are coming. Oh, it's going to be crazy. So, as a rite of passage, I'm bringing my our other son, who's in 10th grade, to help me live stream that. So, if you want to hear about stuff that accountants need to know about financial aid for some reason, more of a selling point. Yeah, it's things like that. But we're going to be doing a Friday FAQ, FACUS Friday, and the Tuesday college talk Tuesday every Tuesday. What were you going to say before we launch in?
Before we go into topic 2, because it's something we touched on last week, and I do think it ties into this conversation of helicoptering parents. We have had, we discussed last week that there are a lot of kids, unfortunately, who are very unhappy in their first year of college and determining, right after literally a week of school, we know people who have brought their kids home after a week because the kid didn't feel right, unhappy, hadn't started classes yet. I'm just going to take a leap here and say maybe this was a helicopter parent who never allowed their kid, because helicoptering can take all forms. Are you afraid to let your kid feel an emotion that's negative?
Right.
It's okay. It's part of life. It's more important while you're here breathing healthy and alive that they experience a negative emotion all the way through while you're there to help guide them through it, not spare them the negative feeling, because with or without you, when you go through the course of your life, there's negative feelings in life. There's stuff that happens, lots of curveballs. If you do not, as an individual, and of course as a student and a kid and somebody going out and on in the world, know how to grow through those experiences and move through those experiences, how are you going to live a successful life? You're not. So helicoptering parents, consider yourself warned. Your job is to teach your children how to live independently of you, emotionally, physically, economically.
I'm feeling an emotion right now.
You want to move on?
No. Well, yes, but one of my emotions is a little bit of trepidation that you're pissing off some of our clients.
Sorry.
But I think they need to hear it. So it's also an emotion of relief in a way. I feel free. And my second emotion is I'm actually a little hungry. Is that really an emotion? No.
Feeling.
Maybe it's fear of not being fed, I guess. So thought I would share that. I thought that would help. Topic 2, which is you got a question that was I'm just rephrasing the question today from your 8 o'clock phone call, but it was really about why should and again I had a very similar question 3 hours later. Why should you fill out the financial aid forms if you don't think you're going to qualify? So let me rack off a couple, then you rack off a couple reasons.
Okay.
One is because you don't know if you're not going to qualify. So that's just we time and time again, people who think they can't qualify can, but they don't fill out the forms. Another reason is that some colleges want you to fill out the need-based, the FAFSA and the CSS profile in order to consider you for not only need-based aid but also for merit-based. It's not all schools, but it's a school-by-school basis. So you said something to me after that point, which was,
well, okay, everybody should fill out the financial aid forms. Okay, in fact, this actually was brought up in another local but very strong school district as an afterthought in their college financial aid night.
You didn't tell me that.
I didn't share that with you, but I thought it was really important. The discussion of, this is the FAFSA, this is the CSS profile, these are the forms, there's an earlier deadline this year, October 1st, yada yada. And if you want to be considered for need-based aid, you fill this out. And then, as an aside, after that discussion was done by whoever was conducting this seminar, the question was raised: well, what if you want to be considered for merit aid? What if I make too much money and I have too many assets? Why should we bother filling out the forms? Many schools won't even consider you for merit aid unless those forms are filed. And if you don't know which schools do and which schools don't, do you want to miss out on paying less? I don't care how much money you have. Why would you want to part with any of your money if you didn't have to? And you could use it for something else, anything else, except for paying GW or paying a school or whatever. Sorry, GW. But
will you tell me what school that was later? Off the air?
Yes.
Okay.
So the point is, yes, some schools out there will consider you for merit aid even if you do not fill out the financial aid forms. But many don't. Is it worth taking that chance? No. Complete the forms. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. You submit it, you're in consideration. It triggers the consideration. You submit the forms, it triggers the consideration for merit, need-based, anything you might be
eligible for?
Eligible
okay.
for.
So let me jump in
Yes.
here while you're reclaiming your tongue. So the just to step back here. There's two types of aid in general. There's need-based aid, which you qualify for or don't qualify for by virtue of filling out the FAFSA, potentially the CSS profile, potentially other types of forms. That varies by college. It's from college to college. The next thing to think about is that there's merit-based money out there, which means anything that's not considered need-based. So it's not only money for super genius, high scoring, high GPA kids. It could be for community service. It could be for stroking your arm.
Violining.
Oh, isn't that up here more?
I don't play the violin.
Or the air violin, apparently. It could be athletic scholarships, anything like that. Do I distract you when you're talking? Yes,
Sometimes.
I do. So the point is that there's a whole lot of money out there that you're not really aware of, and there's actually more merit-based money in the system than need-based. And I won't get into why, but that's just a fact. So how do you get your hands on the money that you should get? Well, filling out the forms is an easy thing. Even if you think you're not going to qualify, chances are you have one or two schools that wants to see them. I think that's safe. It's not going to be every school, but why bother trying to spend the hours, days, and weeks that you'll never get back? Just fill out the financial aid forms. I think
Exactly.
the second thing to be aware of is that most of the time, the colleges on your list will automatically consider you for merit-based, but occasionally there are separate applications that they require. So this is where you need to, and I think the shortest way to do it is just to get on the phone and speak to the admissions officer, you meaning kid, not parent, and try to figure out what the process is. It's also on the website. Sometimes it's a little hard to figure out, but again, for the most part, I'd say 90% of the time you're automatically considered, but 10% of the time there might be some additional things to apply for. In that 10% of the time of the occasions, I believe that you'll get notified by the colleges. Hey, if you want to apply for the Danforth or the President's or whatever it is, please fill this out. So what that means is you and or your child needs to check their email, which we say now. I think we say that every week.
Yeah.
You have to check your inbox just to monitor all these communications.
Right. And here's something not to confuse.
Okay.
If you have selected, I am not looking to be considered for need-based aid on the Common App, that does not mean you are not submitting the financial aid forms for other consideration, i.e. merit money. So don't think one precludes you from doing the other.
So I feel like that just opened up a whole nother line of discussion that we actually can't get to because we're done. But that is a whole other question, which is, does applying for need-based aid affect your chances of getting in? That was a conversation I had, I think, at 11:30. 11 o'clock today. I had 3 calls before the show. So that came up again, and we talked about exactly that, common application, checking the box, not checking the box. So clearly I think that will lead off this Friday show.
Fact Us Friday.
Fact Us Friday. Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern right here on Facebook or collegetalktuesday.live. We're going to talk. Will you remember that? Will you write a note so we don't forget that? Because I sure will.
Yes.
Should you check the box? Yes, that type of thing. In the meantime, if you have any questions, post them right here on our page. We don't always, I don't know why, but sometimes they get lost in the shuffle. But post them under this video because that's what we'll be focusing on. Or you can message us. And if you want more information in terms of just us and our services or upcoming speaking events or our books, just visit our main site, which is collegeplanningguru.com. That is already in this post. So there's a link there that you can just click on. And other than that, should we just say bye?
We can just say bye.
All right. So we're saying goodbye signing off. This has been College Talk Tuesday with Pearl and Andy Lockwood. And if you can make it on Friday, we'll be back hitting the airwaves for FACUS Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, same BAT Facebook channel. Bye.